Ladies and gentlemen, Zoe Williams, the voice of reason, back on air, Foxxhole Radio, and Zoe What Morning Show, back in the building, another Tuesday, and we're going to have a great show. We got some special guests in the building, but I really want to get down to the meat and potatoes of what's going on in American culture today, and we're going to cover it. I know everybody out there saw the uppercut of the century. And I must commend the young lady's chin for being able to weather such a haymaker. But the question is, and I need you to get to your phone lines, 323-965-1600. The question is there a double standard when it comes to domestic violence? Do women get to be abusive? The girl spit on him and punched him. When is it okay for a man to put his hands on a woman, or is it never okay? Which brings me back to my point about the double standard. It is generally perceived and thought that everyone has their limits, men and women. Everybody can be pushed to a limit. Everybody has a border. If everybody has a border, then how then can one say that men should never hit women? 323-965-1600. Does that not give women a blank shit talk check to just roll up and do whatever they want to do? Or was your grandmother right when she said, shut up when talking to dude? If you want to deal with a dude like a dude, you're going to get dealt with like a dude. Remember, Granny was like, hey, don't approach a dude that way, or don't talk to a man that way, or don't try to... Or has feminism put a woman in a space where she's better educated and more, has a better job, more money, and she's feeling herself and feels like she has to, display some of that testosterone in order to compete in a male-dominated world? I don't know. I don't have answers. But I have questions. 323-965-1600. Call me right now and tell me what you think about that. And that will be our running theme throughout the entire show. When is it okay, if ever, for a man to put the monkey knuckles on a female's chin? I don't know. I'd like for you to share your thoughts. Was the dude, I think the dude was out of pocket. But that woman displayed something that I've been saying for the longest. There is a domestic violence survey out there. Look it up, CTS, the Conflict Tactical Survey. CTS, a lot of clinicians, a lot of psychologists, a lot of educators use it. And in that survey, it's a bunch of questions. The results are women are more violent than men. They initiate violence in their relationship more than men do. The reason why it's a controversial survey is because it does not account for impact. When women hit men, we absorb it. Unless she hits us with a hot pot of grits in the Al Green case, or if she hits us with some type of sledgehammer, then we're in trouble. But if it's hand-to-hand, fist-to-fist, the physicality of men, we have a greater impact. Bottom line, our impact is greater. But does that excuse women? Was this woman a byproduct of the Evelyn Lozanda housewife type, Nene Leak, loudmouth, Tammy Roman type prototype of what black women are becoming? Or women, period. Jersey, the Jersey housewife. Listen, women behave just as badly as men, and I think, I said this before, in a patriarchal society, we tend to build a built-in victim shelter for women to run to. Even in that video, soon as she got mollywopped, what happened? Oh, you're not supposed to do that. That's a girl. Girls ain't supposed to spit on bus drivers neither. Girls ain't supposed to push and punch bus drivers while they operate in a city vehicle. Like, what part is she responsible for? Then you see the new video come out. Oh, well, I felt like I was in the Mortal Kombat video. Well, you wasn't finished, so that wasn't the video. If you was in the video, your head would have popped off on that hit alone. I need your opinion on this. When, when do we check the women for their behavior? Is it wrong to even ask that we should check the women? A lot of times women get offended when we have this conversation. Well, let's just go deeper. There's no way we can have this conversation without talking about the massive suppression that men do to women. We suppress them economically, we suppress them emotionally, we suppress them financially, and only recently through the feminist movement, because you have some women now that don't even know anything about the suppression because they're growing into a new society where you can go and do and be whoever you want to be. But don't we need some old school science? Somebody's old ass grandmama need to come up out the grave. Big mama from somewhere need to get up and say, keep your mouth in check, sister girl. That is still a man. And men are not built to be sitting there arguing, let alone get spat on. Somebody call me, 323-965-1600. Right now, before I go even deeper into any other stories, I want to welcome in on the phone right now, one of our guests, one of my co-hosts. Dr. Mark Goulston is in the building. Doc?
Well, I'm not in the building, so we're going to escalate and get into fisticuffs here?
We will not. We will not escalate. But What do you think about what I'm talking about, Doc? Is there some validity to what I'm saying, or am I just spitballing?
Look, I think men and women are built different. The real problem is women are now starting to take on more masculine qualities, and so I think women are getting more aggressive, more verbally and physically aggressive. Mm-hmm. So more of our testosterone is leaking into them than their estrogen is leaking into us, and I think it hurts the world. Also, one of the ways men and women are different. People may know that we have a left and a right brain. Our left brain's our thinking brain. Our right brain's our emotional brain. Well, there's something connecting the two brains. It's a fiber called the corpus callosum, and it's thicker in women and it's thinner in men. What that means is that men's emotions and their reason are split off from each other. So that explains why a lot of men can't use their words and why men will resort to violence, because they don't have the reasonable side to temper their emotions, and they don't have the emotional side to temper their cold logic. So often when men are coldly logical, it makes women crazy, and the man is thinking, well, I'm just trying to help you, honey. I'm just giving you solutions. Why don't you want my help? And what happens is the women say, you're just being so cold. Now, women's brains are more connected, and so in the past, that meant that that may explain why women don't generally start wars, why women generally aren't as physically violent. Women rarely shoot and kill people. And now, that said, men are kind of defenseless. When they get provoked, they don't know how to use their words. So they tend to use their, they tend to go physical. Interestingly, my wife is becoming more liberated, so sometimes she will, if someone cuts us off in traffic, she'll flip the guy off, and I'll say, oh, this is great. He's gonna pull in front of us, pull out a gun. You're gonna start a fight that I have to finish, and we're both gonna be dead. Thank you for your liberation, honey.
Wow. Again, you talked about something that I thought was very interesting in previous shows, and you talked about impotent rage. I think in relationship, because most people don't know that there's always a power struggle in relationships, because there's inherent power in the relationship, and everybody is trying to figure out what piece of the power they have.
Well, it's not just impotent rage, but the other thing, one of the most dangerous animals is a wounded animal, and the reason being is that when they're wounded, they think the next wound's going to kill them. And so often, men can be a little bit thin-skinned. I mean, because we men tend to be a little bit prideful.
Right.
And when someone embarrasses us or humiliates us, we're thin-skinned about it. Actually, a friend of mine told me something, and I hope this triggers some call-ins, which I have to leave it at 11:30, so I won't. So you'll have to deal with the grief. But a friend of mine said, relationships would work out much better if all men would just realize that all women are crazy, and all women would realize that all men are babies.
Wow. That makes sense.
It does.
Yes.
Yeah, I'll cop to being a baby.
I'll cop to being a baby, too. 323-965-1600. That's the number to dial. I like the wounded animal I like that analogy. It seems to me, and I'm not going to put her out on blast, but a listener, a friend of the show, reached out and talked about some difficulty in the relationship with her partner. I'm not going to give up too many details because I don't want to out her. But ultimately, I asked her some questions about her dissatisfaction with the relationship. And ultimately, it came back to her being selfish. I didn't tell her that she was selfish. I just asked questions. Like when you say, I'm tired of his situation. So I repositioned the question. Are you tired of him or are you tired of his situation? Well, no, I love him. I'm just tired of his situation. I said, well, what is his issue? And some of the issues that she brought out, and I can't really reveal the issues because then that would out her. But there were some major issues coming from different levels of his life. Personal family levels, his pocket, just a whole bunch of difficult issues that he had to deal with. And all she wanted to do was go out. And then I repositioned the question for her to see, oh, wow, now that you put it that way, that is kind of selfish. I said, in this moment, he probably needs the love that you claim you have for him more than at any other time. And I told her, I said, it's easy to love somebody when everything is all good. It's difficult to love when everything is all bad. So when you mentioned wounded animal, how often are men wounded in the relationship and then that wound gets compounded because the woman doesn't expect him to be wounded, doesn't expect him to hurt, or if he does hurt, she expects him to sojourn on, you know, because you're a man, you can handle it. Sometimes men can't handle it. Right or wrong, Doc? Talk to me.
No, I think you're right. I think what's happened is also I think as you look out in the uncertainty of the world, people are more and more brittle. So when you take someone who's brittle, what used to be just kind of a flesh wound threatens to crack them open. So we're all a little bit more impatient, a little more irritable, and so it takes much less to wound us. And I think you're right. I think when you can focus on the behavior instead of the person, you have a slightly better chance of it going and turning into something that doesn't get out of hand. And something that I suggest to people in their relationships, because one of the great tips that I learned from a friend, Marshall Goldsmith, a big executive coach, is focus on the future that nobody has messed up yet. Because as soon as something happens, you're going to get into this pissing match, who's right, who's wrong, and it doesn't matter even what the event is. And so a good thing to say in your relationship right now is you say to your partner, going forward, if we have a difference of opinion, what's the best way that I can be with you so that difference of opinion doesn't snowball into a disagreement and an argument and then our war?
Wow.
And then what happens is... and don't get into a debate right then and there. If they say, well, like my wife said to me, I'd say, first of all, realize that I'm sensitive to tones, at home. I know how to deal with them out in the real world, not the real world, but the working world. But at home, most of us men are sensitive to tones. So try and be aware of that. And if you take kind of a scolding tone, it doesn't work too well. And also focus on the behavior and please do not use words like never and always. You never do this, you always do that, because that just feels really discouraging. But try that in your relationships. Now, you can try that at work. It's a great thing to do. Going forward, when we get into a difference of opinion, which happens probably every day, what's the best way to approach you so it doesn't escalate? Let me try that, while we're waiting for callers. Let me try that with you, Zoe. I mean, you and I think the world of each other, but we do get into difference of opinions. If I get into a difference of opinion with you, and I want to bring something to your attention that you may differ with and you may not even like, going forward, what would be the best way to do that, mano to mano, me to you?
For me, and this may be my Achilles heel, because I know what is seen as respect differs from person to person. Respect is a very subjective thing.
Go deeper.
So, for me, being respectful, being considerate of my contribution to the conversation, being considerate to my perspective. Like, I've read so many books and there's so many terms in my head. I'm really sensitive to gaslighting. So if you gaslight me, which is a term that means You marginalize my perspective. You make me think I'm crazy. This happens a lot in relationships. You crazy. You don't know what you're talking about. That doesn't make any sense. Wait a minute. From my perspective, it matters. So when I feel like I'm marginalized or disrespected, my weakness is I disconnect from the respect aspect of the conversation. In other words, I see that as, okay, you don't respect me, I'm going to show you what disrespect is. And that's my weakness. That's something I have to work on personally.
So what's the connection between, because I think, we do, in our friendship, we do bring up things to each other. I think because I feel not only respected, I feel valued by you and cared about by you,
right,
which means I will cut you enormous slack. And you could say something that if I felt someone didn't value me or care about me, I wouldn't cut them any slack. So tie that into what you mean by respect, or are those connected, feeling valued, cared about?
Right. And this is the problem of why most people are afraid to be vulnerable in relationships, because there's that face-washing aspect. If I reveal something to you, if I self-disclose something very personal and something very meaningful to me, and then later you take that and use it against me in an argument, I feel disrespected. I feel like you've taken something that was intimate to me and now used it against me.
Well, it's interesting because I often talk to couples about how do you build trust in a relationship, and there's superficial trust and there's deep trust. And superficial trust is do what you say you're going to do, so that they can. But I think that's more relying on you. To me, if you really want to go deep in a relationship, and this is not easy, and I don't know too many people do it, and I'm certainly not an expert at it myself in my personal relationship, I think how you build deep trust is you share with another person something that makes you think less about yourself. So when you share something, and we all have things that make us feel ashamed of ourselves. Guilt is feeling guilty that we did something wrong. Being ashamed is there's something wrong with me. And I think when you share that with someone, or you entrust something that makes you feel less about yourself, usually if you have a good, loving relationship, the other person will not feel less about you for that, and will actually feel closer that you share that. And the measure of sharing something that intimate with someone, which builds intimate trust, we'll call it intimate trust, is you can't look the other person in the eye when you're sharing it because you feel so ashamed of it.
Wow. Listen, we got to take a quick break, but I'm opening up the phone lines. I want everybody to participate, man. This is going to be an incredible show. So What Morning Show. Just in case you want to follow me, text ZO to 90210. Every means of trying to get in contact with me can be found just by simply texting ZO to 90210. My website, donating to my kids' basketball team, my new book that's coming out, The Relationship Dismount, February 2013. It's going to be crazy. Text ZO to 90210. Also, call us, 323-965-1600. Follow me on Twitter, @ZoeWilliams. I'll be back in 2.2. Hey, wait a minute. Should the bus driver in Cleveland, should he lose his job because he monkey-pawed the girl? Should he lose his job? I don't think so. If you agree or disagree, somebody call me, 323-965-1600. Does the girl have a real legal case? Somebody call me. We'll be back in a second. Holla.